Hey everyone, welcome back to another Web Dev Junkie video. My name is Cody Seibert, and in this video what we're going to be doing is taking that React shopping cart that I made a video on a couple of days ago, and we're going to add on 4 new features. So if you're new to programming or new to React or web development, I highly recommend that you clone this repo, you try to add these 4 features yourself, and figure out how far you can get by yourself. If you get stuck or you need some help along the way, come back to this video and try to see the solutions. With that being said, if you're new to this channel, be sure to click that subscribe button because we're going to have a lot more videos like this in the future. All right, so let's just go ahead and get to it. All right, so let's just go ahead and try to work through these. So the first feature is we want to remove all the items from cart. Probably should put from cart here. So sometimes when you're shopping and stuff, when you go to your shopping cart, you have the ability to remove your items that you clicked. So I see here we have our cart. It would be nice if we could remove basically every single item that we had in our cart. Okay, so that is what we're going to try to add here. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, we probably want to go to our cart component because that is where this little view is displaying this stuff. So if I go to cart, we can then look through it and see, okay, we have a map that's mapping and rendering out all of our products. We have remove buttons. And if we wanted a button that pretty much removed everything, we could either put it at the top or the bottom of the page. So I'm not sure what makes more sense, but let's just put it at the very top of the page for now. So we want a button that basically clears the cart. So I'm going to say button clear cart. So I'll save that, and this should refresh. Go back to my cart. Let me add an item or two. We now have a button that says clear cart. So the functionality, when someone clicks on this button, what do you think you need to do to get rid of all the items in the cart? Well, as a little refresher, this button down here, remove, is basically calling a method called remove from cart, and you pass it a product. So this cart functionality doesn't have any easy way to do it. So it would make sense if we actually passed it in. So I could say clear cart is a function that is passed in. And then what we could do is just basically call it unclick clear cart. Whoa. And this won't work yet because we're not actually passing it in from our app.js. So if we go back to app.js, where we initialize our cart product and show it, our cart component, we could pass in a function that we haven't created yet called clear to cart. So I'll say clear cart, pass that in, and we need to make sure we actually define something. So I'll say const clear cart is equal to a function that right now it does nothing. Okay, so let's load up our console, our web dev tools, and we can make sure that this button is working. It's always good to test out code along the way. So I like to just do console logs and say here or hello or something. And that is just to verify that what we're doing is working so far. What you don't want to do is just keep adding code and then you never test it along the way. And then you end up trying to debug something really hard. Anyway, when we click on the button, it appears to be working. What we want to do though is we want to delete every item from our cart. So if you know up here, if you remember, we have a cart state, which is an array. So if we wanted to set it equal to a new empty array, we could just call the set cart method here and pass it an empty array. Okay, so that should clear the cart out, and we could test that out here in a second. So view products, add 2 batteries in a blanket, go back. And when I click clear cart, everything is gone. So yeah, that was pretty easy to implement. And one thing I'd recommend is it doesn't make sense to really show this button if your cart doesn't have anything in it. So we could go over here and conditionally show this if the cart has any type of item in it. So I'll just do this JSX curly and say cart.length and then display the button. This is how you conditionally hide and show stuff in React. So let's just go here and add some more stuff. Clear the cart and the button goes away. And we have an issue. So this 0, if you ever see this 0, Sometimes this is because you are using cart.length. So what I should say instead is if cart.length is greater than 0, then show it. There. Or you could do like cart.length is not equal to 0, I guess. Okay, but anyway, we have the cart showing. And let's go back. So remove all items from cart is working. Awesome. The next feature. So the next feature we want to work on is sum the total cost. So if we go back to our cart and we add a couple of things, like a blanket and whatever. One thing would be nice is if we actually summed up the total value of all these items. And it's actually pretty easy to do. So down here at the very bottom of our cart, we could probably have a new div. We can call it sum or something. No, we don't need to deal with classes yet. So I'll just do like a hard-coded total cost here, and we can come back and change that up. So in our cart, go back here, it says total cost is $99.99. So if we wanted to replace this with an actual like dynamically computed cost, how do we do that? Well, we have an array of all the items in the cart here, right? And if we go back to app.js, we know that the products, let's see, products, trying to figure out, oh, I think they're in here, products, there should be some hard-coded products, okay. So you notice that our products have a property called cost, which is $2.99. And every time we add a product to a cart, basically it's just taking this object and putting it into our cart. So we can loop over every item, take the cost, and sum it up. Now, what would make more sense is maybe we should actually convert these to integers or numbers so that summing them together is easier. And it might make sense to not do the decimal here, but since this is a beginner tutorial, let's just keep the decimal and keep it simple. So let's change the cost to be a number instead of a string. And you'll notice here that that will probably break the products, because it used to have a money sign and now it doesn't. So if I go back to products, I'm on products. What I want to do here is basically wherever the cost is, I'm just going to put a money sign in front of it so it looks a little cleaner or more intuitive. And now, if I go back to the cart, we probably want to do that as well here. So we'll add a money sign so it shows up on our products inside of our cart. But again, what are we trying to do? We are trying to interpolate some value here, and that is the sum of all of the items in a cart. So how do we do that? Well, let's make a function. It's always easy to make a function and try to use it. So I'm going to say const get total sum. And this is just going to basically sum up all the items in the cart. So if you know the reduce function, this will be a useful function to use. So I'll say cart.reduce. And I will say sum number. And we could just say sum plus num. And let me change this to num so it's a little bit easier. Okay, so now we could just call that function here inside of our JSX template. And as I add items, so 2 blankets, so 2 batteries, so I go back, notice that we have an error, and that is because num is actually an object. So I need to say cost. Because you remember those items, if I go, the item had a name, it had a cost, and it had something else in it. So let's try this. Add 2 batteries, go back to my cart. And this is still having issues. Let's see. I think it's because I want to start the reduce with an initial value of 0. And if I add some items, this should fix it, hopefully. Oh my gosh. All right, so time to do a little bit of debugging. I'm not sure what's going on here. So let's see if we can add a debugger and maybe step through what is going on. So if I add some stuff to the cart, go back to my cart, my debugger should fire. And let's see. If I hover, no. So if I hover over cart That's an array that has 3 items, cost of $2.99. The reduce function should be looping through. Let me step through this. Sum should be 0. It's not working. Hold on. Let me do this. This would be easier. So I'll put the debugger statement here. Oh, what am I doing? I found the issue. The issue was I was doing curly braces on cost for some reason, because yikes. Okay, I don't think I need to start it out as 0. You know what? I might need to. Hold on. Obviously, I don't use reduce that much, so let's try that. Add some items to the cart. Okay, we have a total cost here. Now, if I remove items, that cost will go back down. So add a couple blankets, add a battery, go back just to make sure, and that seems like it's working. Clear cart. All right, so I apologize for getting caught up in that. Sometimes that happens, but basically the issue was we're looping over an array of objects, and we care about the cost property of that object, right? And we need to sum them all up here, so sum plus cost, and we need to make sure reduce starts at an initial value of 0 because we're summing things up, right? And the bug I ran into is I accidentally had this in curly braces, which is basically adding objects to numbers and giving you some issues. All right, sum total cost, I think that's done. Let's move on to the next feature, which is the item quantity. So in your shopping cart, let's say you added 3 batteries. Okay, so it might make it more sense if it only showed 1 battery and showed like a quantity. So what we could do, if we go back to our cart, and if we load up a product, because we might need to look at products as well. So in app.js, we have a function called add to cart. And this function needs to change a little bit. I think what it needs to do is it needs to actually just find the product that you tried clicking, seeing if you already have it, and if you do, increase a quantity. So what we could do here is I'm going to say const item in cart, and I could say cart.find item of where product.name is equal to item.name. So basically look through our cart, try to find the item that matches the name of the one we just tried to add, and if we have it, if we already have that in our cart, what we could do is just say item in cart is equal to a new object. Actually, we do item in cart dot quantity is equal to plus plus. So we're going to increase the quantity. Otherwise, if we don't have it in the cart, we're going to add a new quantity here. So say quantity is equal to 1. Start off as 1. Oh, actually, if there is no item in the cart, what we want to do is we're going to have to add it. So let me do this. I'll make this a let, and then I'll say else let item in cart equal to an item that is the combination of the product plus the quantity equal to 1. Okay. And then what we want to do is basically push that item into our cart. So I'll say cart is equal to ... cart and item in cart. Actually, let me name this new cart is equal to ... cart. And we could just push that. So push item in cart. And then finally, we just need to set the cart here. So I think this should work. So basically, we're making a new cart array, which is the old array with some new references. We loop through it. Oops, let me loop through the new cart here. So we loop through the new cart, we find the item. If the item exists, we increase the quantity. If the item doesn't exist, we basically add it with a quantity of 1, and then we set our cart here. So hopefully this still works. If I add a battery and go back, I think there's a break line going on for some reason. So you see the item shows up here, and what we want to do just to make sure that this works, if we go back to our cart, we just want to show the quantity here. So if I say quantity and add 1, we have a $sign because I accidentally added that. So let me delete that. So look here, we have 2. That's because I clicked it twice. So let me go back to my products. I'm going to click it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go back up here and notice that we have 4 batteries in the cart. Now, if you notice here, there's a couple things that are broken now. The total cost is not showing up, and the go to cart button up here has the wrong number of things. So unfortunately, we have to go back up here, and there should be, let's find that header where we're displaying that. So we're doing cart.length. But what we want to do is we want to sum up basically all the quantities in the cart. So this gets a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to say get cart total, make a function, and that is basically going to do that reduce that we did last time, and hopefully we don't screw it up this time. So let's just go ahead and return cart.reduce, and that takes a sum, and that takes a, we'll do quantity this time. And basically we're just going to add sum to quantity, and we're going to start off this reduce at 0. Okay, so now we should be able to call this here. Instead of cart.length inside this button at the top in the header, we could just say get cart total, and that should hopefully work. So if I add 3 batteries, notice that we have 3 up here now. So the second thing that we want to do is if you go to the cart, you'll notice that the total cost is not being like updated based on how many batteries you have, right? It should do $2.99 times 2, and that should be your total cost. So if we go back to our cart, we could probably update that here. So if you remember this reduce function we just created, where it is the cost pretty much summed up, we could easily change this by if we just pull in the quantity property, and we could say cost times quantity. And now in our UI, it should just multiply these together. So let's see, is my live reload not working anymore? Let's add 3 batteries, go back here. We have $2.99 times 3 gives us the total cost. Okay, so that was a pretty easy fix. What else are we trying to do? Item quantity. Okay, so we basically have most of the quantity set up, but it would be nice if we had up and down arrows for like changing the quantity here. So if we go to our cart, we could add some buttons here maybe, or this could also be an input box if you wanted to. Maybe we just do that. That might be easier. So I'm going to change this to an input box, and I'm going to say on change. That's going to take an E, and then I'll say, I could make a method called set. Sorry, I'm jumping around. I'll say set quantity, and that takes a product, and that takes an amount. Make sure that is an anonymous function here. So I'll do this. So set quantity is going to be called here when we change. So set quantity, we're going to call it with the product and also e.target.value. And my HTML is totally messed up here, so let me try to figure this out. So that needs to be curly braces. Okay, I need to probably have a ending tag brace here. And I can make the value equal to product.quantity so that when it starts, it has the initial quantity of 1 or 0 or whatever. All right, so let's add a product, go back to the cart. We have an input box here. So if I were to type in 5, it doesn't do anything because we're not correctly updating the quantity yet. So if we go up here, we have a method that we need to implement. And basically what this is going to do is we could, I'm starting to think that maybe we should just have access to setting the cart inside of this, but we'll just stick to this. We could refactor it later. But let's just actually have this method, I guess, passed in. And we're going to pull this out and put it in app. So set quantity, product and amount. And that is going to be passed in here. And again, what does this do? Well, basically we need to loop through the cart. So I'll say new cart is equal to ... cart. And we need to say new cart find. And I can say item, where item is equal to product. I'll use name. Name's going to be our unique identifier. So find where that product is, and I'm going to say quantity is equal to amount. So now we just need to make sure we call set cart here and pass it new cart. And that should hopefully increase the quantity. So let's see. If I go here and say add cart, I go here and say quantity of 5. Notice that the total cost went up, and we have 0.5 in our cart, which is kind of strange. I'm not sure what that is caused by. So maybe we can go and look at that. So go to cart. No, actually, we need to go to app, and that's in the header. Get cart total. What is this doing? So, I mean, I've seen the 0 bug before where like it puts a 0 in places. I think it has issues with numbers. I don't know why. So maybe I need to actually return a string here. If anyone knows, let me know. Let's see if I add some. I go here and add 20. That's kind of strange. I mean, so the actual quantity, like if I were to print this out here, if I go up here and add in 20, it must be appending a 0 when I do that. So let's go back to cart. That's calling set quantity. And set quantity is calling what is this doing? All right, let's just put a debugger here and figure this out. I'm gonna go in here, I'll change the quantity like so, and then if I loop over what amount is 20, product is this with quantity 2, and we should loop over and find. So if I go this, we're finding the item where name is equal to product.name, the AA battery. And then we are increasing the quantity to 20, or setting it to 20. You know, I think it's because amount is being passed in as a string, and what we probably want to do is pass it in as an integer. So if I go back to cart here, we don't want to pass e.target.value. I think we want to pass like parse int. And let's see if that actually does anything. So I'm going to add 1 battery, go back here, add 10. And we have 10 now. Okay, so that was the issue. A very strange bug. But hey, we figured it out. And you could do this, like you could change this up. You could have this be up arrows or down arrows where you could just increase the quantity by 1. But that is the gist of it, you know? You can add some items, you can delete them all if you want. So if I remove this, we got nothing in our cart anymore. So let's move on to the very last thing we're trying to add. I think item quantity is done. The last one is product categories. So inside of our products list, if someone wanted to have like a drop down where they could select different categories and hide and show products based on those, based on those categories, how would you do that? Okay, so let us put categories on these. So I'll say category is utility, and category is I say home and garden. I don't really know. I'm making up some categories here. In fact, I'm going to actually pull those out in the constants. So I'm going to say const home garden is equal to this, and then const utility is equal to this. And this just allows us to kind of clean up some code. All right, and I'm going to use those as our categories on our two little items here. So I'll do this. All right, so what we're trying to do is we want to have like a drop down where you can select your different products. And let's see if I can remember how to do this in React. I might have to look this up, but I know I can do a select and put options. So I could do values equal to home garden. And then I could just render out home garden here. I think that should make us a drop down that has one item in it. It does. It looks totally strange. So let me put it up here. I think this is because products is a flexbox or CSS grid. So now we could just say select a category. I think that should put it inline. That's good enough, right? All right, so we have home and garden, and then we could do another one that is going to be called utility. So stick with me. It's really ugly, but hey, this isn't a CSS tutorial. This is a React functionality. And I am kind of hacking some stuff together. So if you have some of this code irks you, just know that this is just like beginner, and you can spend time refactoring it to make it cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. But anyway, what we're trying to do is we need to filter out the products based on which category is selected. So one simple thing you could do is you could use the filter method here. So I could say products.filter. But I'm actually going to make a helper function. So I'll say const get products in category. And that could take in a category. And I think technically, since we have a select and it's going to change your category you have selected, we're going to need some state. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Let's go up here and say const category and set category. Use state is going to be home garden starting off. Okay, so that is our initial category, home garden. And what we're going to be doing is basically just return the products and filter where the product category is equal to your category selected. Okay, so I'm just making a function that basically does a filter and returns me all the products that are in my current category. And then what we want to do here is, instead of looping over all the products, we could just get the products in the selected category here. Okay, so you've noticed I saved that, and now we only have a blanket here. So the issue is, if I change this, it doesn't do anything because I need to do, I think, an on change here. And we're going to have to, I might have to debug this a little bit, but I think we could just say set category, e.target.value. I may have to Google this. Oops, make sure you pass an E because that takes an E argument. Whoa. The loading. What is the loading about? Let me do a hard refresh. I think it's having issues loading the image. I mean, it's working. You see, I'm switching between home garden and utility, and these things are showing, but I don't know why the image is not loading. My internet might be acting up. I don't really know. Come on, Xfinity, you're ruining my tutorial video. Anyway, it's kind of unfortunate that this is happening now, but I think you get the gist. Like, we added an on change to this select input, and whenever you change your actual value, it's changing the categories that are displayed. So, and you can do this with all your different products and categories. Now, I don't know if this is the most efficient. You could probably figure out to use like a use memo hook or something to not have to recompute this stuff, but honestly, that's premature optimization. Like the amount of categories that you're dealing with are not that great. If you have hundreds of thousands of categories, you might want to use something like that. But at the same time, when you switch your categories, you're probably going to be making separate HTTP requests to get a new list of categories because you don't want 50,000 products stored in your browser. What is going on here? All right, so that was the last feature that we were adding in. I will state some things that I'm not too sure about in terms of this app. Is I think it would be better, instead of having a lot of these things defined inside of the app.js, it's better to keep functionality kind of as close as you can to the buttons that's calling them, or the functionality that's calling them. So for example, if I go to my cart, actually let me add a couple of blankets. Let me add one more. So if I go to my cart, you'll notice that I have 2 blankets, and I have a remove button, I have a clear cart, and stuff like that. But the clear cart function is actually defined in app.js, which I find kind of confusing. So I think it would be better if we put the clear cart and we put the add to cart, or not add the cart. We put remove from cart inside of the cart component itself, and those could basically just call the set cart function. So we could probably do that real quick. Let's see. So I'll take remove from cart and I'll put it here, and I'll also take clear cart and put that inside of here. And the only issue with that is that these both depend on a set cart method. So if I pass in set cart now, so down here, we could pass in set cart so that the cart has the ability to change these things. I think now I can remove it. I can go back and I should be able to clear everything. Okay, so that's working. And I would recommend doing that. I don't know why I was doing it the other way, but it's just a good thing to keep in mind that your code isn't cement, right? Your code can easily be refactored, can easily be changed. So if you're writing code and sometime you figure out like, hey, this code looks kind of bad, this code could be cleaned up, I'm not a big fan of how this is written, then just refactor it. It's not that big of a deal, right? Same with add to cart. Add to cart could probably be put in products, right? Because that is the actual component that's calling it. And in order for that to work, we're going to need set cart and we're going to need cart. If I go here, we're going to need to pass set cart to products. And we're also going to need to pass cart here. So if I do this, now I should be able to add it. Set quantity is a cart related function, so I could probably put it here and not pass it in as props. What else can we do? What else can we do? Get total, get cart total. I think that's used for the header. Navigate to, that's also used in the header. So let's save this and see what's going on. This is failing here, so let me save that. And then even so, at this point, you might be like, hey, I mean, you could probably just use context, and then you don't even have to do this. You don't have to pass in these props. And that's a good observation. You could use context and circumvent the prop drilling. But at this point, I'm kind of over this little tutorial video. So I hope what I've shown you makes sense. I hope this little refactoring session also made sense and how easy it was to change some code around. If you have any more ideas about what I could add to this little app, feel free to leave a comment, but I might start working on a different tutorial video. I could style these. Maybe I could do like a video about styling this stuff, but yeah. Again, thank you so much for watching. This was a Web Dev Junkie video. My name is Cody Seibert. If you like this video and you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe, because we're going to be posting a lot of videos like this in the future. Give me a like and give me a comment, because I like hearing your thoughts on the way I am doing these videos and how I'm coding myself, because sometimes I think I'm writing some garbage code, but I like to start small and build and refactor and build and refactor. And I think some people get turned off when they see a unclean way to do something but I might refactor it later on in the tutorial video. But anyway, thank you for watching and have a great